inside the Crimson Tide. Tider Insider TV with Rodney Orr and Carrie Harris.
Well, it wasn't unexpected, but disappointing nonetheless. The news that five-star 2015 high school quarterback commitment Ricky Town of Ventura, California, decommitted from Alabama and committed to the USC Trojans on Saturday. He thanked Coach Saban and the Tide fans via Twitter, but he's going to stay there on the left coast instead of coming southeast to Alabama. And with that, we say good evening, everybody, and welcome into Tider Insider TV, presented each and every week by Buffalo Rock. Not alongside Rodney Orr from TiderInsider.com tonight as usual because of the severe weather. Rodney could not make it in, the winter weather keeping him away, but he is joining us via telephone. Let me go ahead, though, and take care of some business. Our program presented each and every week by Buffalo Rock. Tonight, I'm enjoying ice-cold Diet Pepsi. And, Rod, I'm sure you've got your Diet Pepsi right there at home, right?
How'd you know?
Because I know you well, and I know you love it. Hey, hate you couldn't be with us tonight. At the same time, glad to have you on the phone, and let's go ahead and talk about some big news that we talked about last week. Been talking about it for a while. It's really been speculated since September that Jacob Coker was going to leave Florida State and transfer to Alabama. Now it's official. He'll finish out the spring semester at Florida State, graduate, come to Alabama this summer. He will not go through spring training, but he'll be a graduate student. He'll be eligible immediately, and obviously, Rodney, even though he has not set foot on campus, he is going to be a major player in this quarterback race for 2014. Talk about what the Coker commitment means for UA.
Well, I think obviously it's going to give a guy who can challenge for the starting spot. I mean, when you talk about potentially all the tools that he has, I mean, he's 6'5½", he's 230 pounds, he's a outstanding athlete, he has a great arm. Again, he was an excellent high school quarterback at St. Paul's High School. He followed after AJ there in Mobile, and was a guy that maybe kind of stayed under the radar a little bit coming out of high school, but I know that Jimbo Fisher and that staff at Florida State, they do a great job of evaluating quarterbacks, and they loved him. And I think he was very competitive with, Jameis, and just lost that spot to Jameis at the very end of fall camp this year. But, he's a guy, Gary, that could start at most, or certainly compete to start at most any school in the country. So, I mean, I think it's a huge pickup because he's a guy, again, he's got some experience on this level, and he knows what competition is, and I think that he's getting into a good situation in terms of being with Lane Kiffin, who's got a reputation of being able to develop quarterbacks.
Rod, he'll have 2 years of eligibility. We're taking a look right now on the screen at Jacob Coker by the numbers, as you've already mentioned. Great measurables, size, a very good athlete, strong arm. Still, though, very limited experience at the collegiate level. He has not thrown that many passes at Florida State, has not played that often. When he has been, and he's looked good, but he still is a relative unknown in terms of what he brings to the table. I know that the quarterback race in the spring is going to be wide open when he gets here for fall practice. Can we make the assumption that he'll be the starting quarterback, or is it still going to be up for grabs come August?
Well, the fact that he doesn't go through spring practice, I think certainly is, you have to respect those guys who go through spring practice and who put forth the effort. And they're certainly, outstanding prospects as well. And all of them. We've discussed each one of them before. And, but so I wouldn't say that, until fall camp gets here and he earns that spot in fall camp. But I would say this. I think it's a pretty strong chance that Jacob Coker, if he does everything he's supposed to do and, lives up to expectations and blends in well, I think you have a great opportunity to be the starter. I would expect him to be.
6 quarterbacks will be on scholarship come August, assuming that nobody transfers out following the spring. It is going to be interesting to watch Coker and those other guys battle for playing time. Well, soon the Alabama Crimson Tide will have about 25 more pieces to the 2014 puzzle signed, sealed, and delivered. But, Rodney, it's the guys that are not committed yet that are leaving Alabama fans in suspense. That's what makes it fun. Specifically, 3 guys, Rodney, that we're going to talk about. You've written about them on your site, TiderInsider.com. You've had the latest there. But for some of our viewers who may not be Tider Insider members, let's talk about the big 3, we'll call them, beginning with Matt Elam, big-time defensive tackle/nose tackle out of the state of Kentucky. It's an Alabama-Kentucky battle. On the surface, you would say Alabama all day, but, Rod, a lot of pressure there on him to attend the home state university.
Yeah, they've told him that, he's the greatest prospect in that state in the last 10 years, and that he can, be the guy that turns the program around. And, they basically begged him to come. And, again, can he tell them no? Can he walk away from his home state? I'm really not sure that he can. I thought all along that he would end up at Alabama. It wouldn't surprise me which way it went, to be honest with you, Gary. But I do think that, I'm going to be interested to see if he can tell, Kentucky no, because there's just obviously a huge difference between the two programs. And, I think that, probably Alabama could certainly do him really well in terms of developing him.
He is huge physically, a big man. A lot of people have compared him to Terrence Cody. First of all, Rodney, is that comparison fair? Cody made an immediate impact out of junior college, not high school. And do you think that's something the Alabama coaches are telling him, that he can be the next Mount Cody?
Well, they have mentioned it because he's told me that. I mean, and so has his coach, Chad Lewis, potentially is like Terrence Cody. I mean, he has that size. Gary would need to lose a little weight. It's about 375, probably needs to play at about 335 or so. But, I mean, he has that potential. I mean, there's no question. He has a great first step. And, he could really be a plugger in the middle. So, yeah, I think that certainly he has that potential.
Rodney, another big piece to this Alabama recruiting puzzle is Crimson Tide legacy Marlon Humphrey, the 5-star cornerback out of nearby Hoover High School.
Well, yeah, and he visited Alabama this past weekend, and then he went over to Mississippi State, supposed to be at UCLA this coming weekend. And, again, it's Alabama and Florida State. It's kind of been that way for a while. There's been a lot of speculation. I mean, there's even people down in Tallahassee that'll tell you, told me as late as, a week ago, that they thought that Marlon Humphrey would sign with Florida State. But, I've really always thought, and I've said this on the show many times, when you consider all the factors involved and the fact that Bobby Humphrey is a former Alabama legend, Nick Saban, I mean, who develops NFL cornerbacks for the first round, the NFL draft, better than Nick Saban? I mean, his record speaks for itself, and, I mean, that's very difficult to turn down. Now, again, not saying that it's a lock by any means that he's coming to Alabama, but, again, I still believe that Marlon Humphrey, when all's said and done, will end up at Alabama, but it's just my guess.
And the final one of the big three is an Auburn legacy. Auburn high school linebacker Rashaan Evans, his dad, Alan, way back in the day, was a running back for the Tigers before finishing out at Chattanooga. Rashaan Evans right there in Auburn, in Alabama, steal him away.
Well, I think that Alabama certainly has a chance. I think they've done a great job of recruiting him. I think this partly comes down to, he's a better fit at Alabama. He wants to be a linebacker. He wants to be developed as a linebacker for the NFL. He knows that his opportunity at Alabama as a linebacker being developed in this system could certainly help him in the future when it comes to, his draft opportunities. At Auburn, they would use him as a hybrid safety outside linebacker, and if he outgrew that, they'd move him down to a defensive end, which, my understanding is that he really doesn't prefer that. He prefers to be a true linebacker. But I know there are other factors involved, and you mentioned those with Alan Evans, who played there for a couple of years before he transferred out of their program. But, Gary, it's kind of like Marlon Humphrey. And until Rashaan Evans says he's not going to Auburn or he's going somewhere else, then, I think that the bet has to be on Auburn.
All right, Rodney, good stuff. Hold tight. We'll get back with you. The countdown is on. Signing Day 2014, only 8 days away. When we come back, as we've told you, Alabama lost one 2015 recruit but gained another. We'll tell you who that is. Plus, our spring practice preview continues with a look at a talented group of linebackers coming back. Who will step up and replace C.J. Mosley? And coming up, we'll be welcoming your phone calls, emails, and tweets. You see the information on the screen. Interact with Tider Insider TV right now. Go ahead and give us a call, send us an email, or contact us on social media. We'll be right back with the only show that takes you inside the Crimson Tide, the one, the only, Tider Insider TV. We've watched him make plays for 4 years at Alabama, and this past Saturday, NFL scouts got an up-close look at what Kevin Norwood could do at the Senior Bowl. 4 catches, 53 yards, and that touchdown. He was named the South team's most outstanding player. He's going to make it in the NFL. Wait and see. And we're back on Tider Insider TV. Gary Harris, not alongside Rodney Orr tonight, who could not get in because of all the winter weather, but he is with us on the phone. Now, we've already talked about a 2015 commitment who jumped ship on the Tide, but Alabama picked up a 4-star defensive lineman, Jonathan Ledbetter, out of the state of Georgia. Tucker, Georgia, loaded program. Rodney, this is a guy that physically really looks good. big, strong, physique, athletic guy. Talk about Ledbetter.
Yep, had a lot of offers, good offers. Auburn, Arkansas, Clemson, Florida, Georgia, all the really good teams around in the SEC area. And, 6'5", 270 pounds, and, decided to go ahead and make an early commitment to Alabama. I think he's a guy that has an opportunity to get bigger, probably be a defensive end when he gets here. And again, these commitments are really early. It'll be almost 13 months before he'll sign. So it'll certainly be worth watching as we go along, as we saw with Ricky Town. But he's an excellent prospect, Gary.
All right, we'll see if Alabama can hang on to him. And as always, Nick Saban after defensive lineman. A nice piece to add to the defense for sure, potentially. But what about replacing some key guys for this coming season? It's time for our spring practice preview. And this week we're looking at the linebacking core. And one big question is who replaces C.J. Mosley? Rodney, who do you see stepping up and filling that void?
Well, I don't know that you can, as we talked about last week, have one guy that, fills that role. It'll be interesting to see what they do in spring practice. But they've got a lot of young linebackers as a group that I think are going to be interesting to watch. We saw Dylan Lee start playing more on the outside towards the last half of last year. Be interesting to see how he develops. And, Reggie Ragland, a guy, is this going to be the year that he steps up? He came out of Madison with so much promise a couple of years ago, and now he's entering his third year. Be interesting to see how he comes along this spring. Ryan Anderson is another young linebacker that, came out of high school at Daphne with a lot of promise. And Reuben Foster, that's the guy that I think everybody really wanted to see last year and came in as a freshman, played sparingly. But this year, this is going to be his opportunity. I think the spring's really big for Reuben Foster, and he certainly has a lot of potential.
So a lot of talent coming back at the linebacking position. They'll battle it out much like quarterback. Be a lot of guys in the mix. Well, next week we'll put a hold on our countdown to spring practice. That's because it'll be signing day eve, and we'll spend most of our time next week talking about signing day, but we'll continue our countdown on February the 11th with the secondary. Well, coming up next, a surprise top 25 ranking for one University of Alabama team, and we're welcoming your phone calls, emails, and tweets. You see the information on the screen. Interact with Tider Insider. Go ahead and give us a call so you can get on the line. Reach us through social media or email us. We want to talk with you next and find out what is on your minds tonight. We'll be right back with the only show that takes you inside the Crimson Tide, Tider Insider Television, brought to you by Buffalo Rock. Now, the Alabama baseball team will start the year with a national top 25 ranking. Baseball America released its top 25 poll, and the Tide is ranked 21st. Mitch Gaspard's team returns 21 players from a team that made an NCAA regional appearance last year. So they're excited to be back. The boys of summer getting ready in the winter. They'll be playing baseball soon. All right, it's time to take some phone calls and answer some email questions. Phone number again, 205-348-WVUA. Right now we've got an email that we're going to take a look at. Do you think Kiffin was hired to help Bama recruit high-profile quarterbacks? That's from Robert in Livingston. Rodney, your thoughts? Obviously, probably not hired just specifically as a recruiter, clearly, but he is a good recruiter, and his background with running some big-time offenses can't hurt in quarterback recruiting.
Well, I think, again, he is an excellent recruiter, no doubt about that. But I think he's brought in to develop the quarterbacks and develop the offense and those types of things. But again, he has done a great job of recruiting as well.
Well, indeed, and a lot of people are going to be really, really interested to see how he handles this offense in his first year as a coordinator since back in his days at USC. But remember, when he was at Tennessee and again at Southern California, he called the plays, so it won't be that big a stretch to see him coordinating an offense. He just won't have to worry about all the head coaching duties that go with being a head coach, clearly. All right, let's go to the phones and talk with our good friend BT. BT, what's up?
I'm good, Gary. How about you?
Doing very well.
Which way do you think the basketball team is going to get better or worse? That's the question, Gary.
Well, BT, I think they're getting better. I mean, the record is not where you want it to be. One game under 500 at this point in the season, quite frankly, is disappointing. But they are 3-3 in the SEC. Had a huge win the other night against LSU when they blew a 19-point second-half lead, but came back to win 82-80. And, Rodney, I will say this. They go to Auburn tomorrow night. This is an Auburn team that's lost 16 straight SEC games, but their last win in conference was over Alabama last year at Auburn when they held the Tide to 37 points. This is a big game for Alabama. This is one they need to win. They have not won outside of Coleman Coliseum, but if you're not going to win it, you know, if you're not good enough to beat a team on the road that hasn't won a game in their last 16 tries in the conference, that's not a good sign. I think it's a big game tomorrow night for Anthony Grant and Alabama, don't you?
Oh, certainly. I think you just hit the nail on the head with your analysis there, Gary. I mean, I think, you know, winning your last game, I think it certainly was a boost. I mean, the thing is, it really was how they held on to win the game this time. I mean, you know, they've had some difficulties holding on the lead, but this time they've managed to do it, and you certainly hope that that's some sort of a confidence booster.
Indeed. That's a big game tomorrow night for the Tide, and obviously for Auburn, who just wants to get that monkey off their back. They've lost, I said, 16 in a row and 23 of their last 24 Southeastern Conference games. Well, next on Tide Insider TV, a capacity crowd packed Coleman, but not for basketball. We'll check out the results of the annual Power of Pink gymnastics meet, plus more of your phone calls, emails, and tweets. Again, the information there on your screen. Give us a call. Lines are open at 205-348-9882. We hope you're warm and safe and watching us tonight. And if you are, give us a call. We'll be back with more Tide Insider TV right after this. What a scene this past Friday night. 15,000 plus fans packed out Coleman Coliseum for the annual Power of Pink gymnastics meet. The 7th-ranked Crimson Tide dominated Arkansas, but to top it off, really what was important, a lot more money raised for breast cancer awareness and screenings for women who may not be able to afford them otherwise. So good entertainment, sports, and a great cause this past Friday night. All right, time to head back to the phones and check the emails. And first up is an email question. And this one comes to us from Lyle and Hoover. Who do you guys think will be the starting cornerbacks this season? Rodney, that's a great question. It's going to be up for grabs. We talked about a lot of positions where people are going to be battling out, but this one's going to be active in the spring and then again when some other guys come in the fall. Would you care to garner a guess on who might be the 2 starting corners next year?
Did you say cornerback?
Corners, yeah.
Yeah, corners. I mean, again, I think you've got a lot of talented guys there. We've talked about those guys before. You've got Eddie Jackson, who is one of the more talented players I think I've seen in terms of potential. And he showed some flashes this year. Cyrus Jones has played quite a bit. And I'm sure he'll be improved. You know, people don't give Cyrus credit. I mean, the guy moved over from wide receiver. I mean, what an adjustment he had to make, and he had to kind of learn on the fly, so to speak. And Maurice Smith's a young cornerback that's there. Bradley Sylvie is another guy that, got some experience, seemed to be playing well before he injured the ankle. And, you've got some guys coming in. Tony Brown certainly is a guy that, is one of the more highly touted corners in the country. If you get a guy like Marlon Humphrey, I mean, as we're looking forward to next year, and when he would come in August, he would be a guy that certainly would get a look too. And, there's some others. So I think they've got something to choose from. No question.
All right, let's take one more email really quick, and this is in regards to Jacob Coker, who we've talked a lot about. Right to the point, though, Danny in Tuscaloosa. How good is Jacob Coker, Rodney? I know we've said that already, but potentially is this guy a game changer?
Well, potentially, yes. I mean, I don't think there's any doubt about it. I mean, I just, might as well go ahead and say it. I mean, and I don't know that, you certainly have to allow him to develop at his own pace. And it's probably unfair to, put any unrealistic expectations, but he has all the tools to be an outstanding player, really outstanding player.
All right, good stuff. Thanks for the phone calls. Thanks for the emails. Coming up next on the show, we're recapping the week in Tide Hoops. Both the men and women ended the week on a good note. We'll talk about it next. We're coming back to wrap up the show from a snowy Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and University of Alabama campus. Look at that, beautiful. We'll be right back. It was a quick turnaround for the Alabama men's basketball team after a tough Thursday night loss at home to 6th-ranked Florida. The Tide returned to action against LSU on Saturday inside Coleman Coliseum. They built a 19-point lead, lost it, but were able to come back and win the game 82-80. Now the Auburn Tigers are next for Coach Grant's team tomorrow night, as we talked about earlier. It's a big game for both squads.
Looking forward to the challenge of playing on the road, trying to come up with our first road win. And then playing a team, in my opinion, that's playing really good basketball. Obviously from a scouting standpoint, you look at the diversity they have on their team with Harrell with pain. So for us, it's going to be about bringing the intensity we need to on the defensive end, and obviously offensively finding quality shots and taking care of the ball.
And what a week it was for Christy Curry's women's team. After blowout losses against Auburn and South Carolina, they bounced back, had a last-second shot to beat Kentucky on the road on Thursday night. Then they come from behind to beat Georgia at home on Sunday. They're 10-10 on the year, 3-4 in the SEC. This is a team that just is getting better and better under Christy Curry, doing a great job. All right, here's a look at the week in Tide Athletics. The men's team at Auburn tomorrow night and home against the Vols on Saturday. The women are at Florida on Thursday and home against Tennessee on Sunday. The gymnastics team is on the road this Friday at LSU in a top 10 matchup. All right, that is going to do it for this week's program. Our thanks to TiderInsider.com's Rodney Orr for joining us on the phone. Couldn't make it in tonight because of the winter weather. We hope you're safe and sound and warm at home. As always, we'd like to thank the Locker Room for outfitting myself tonight in this outstanding original elephant wear. The Locker Room on the University Strip is home of the original elephant wear. Visit them in person or look them up online and get what is the hottest thing going today, original elephant wear from the Locker Room in Tuscaloosa. Don't forget, if you missed the show, you can catch it online anytime. Our producer, BJ Milligan, will be getting it up at WVUATV.com. So for Rodney, BJ, and our entire Tider Insider crew, I'm Gary Harris. Thanks for watching, everybody. Stay safe, sound, and warm, and have a good night.